Hello, and welcome back to Tabletop Thoughts. Today we are going to make a custom terrain piece out of this 3D printed wall section and a few mushrooms that I picked up at my local Dollar General. We are going to mount all of this onto a piece of foam core. I'm going to start by placing my 3D printed part onto the foam core and drawing a rough shape that'll be the base, just to give me an idea of how far everything is going to be away from the centerpiece. After we have that drawn, we will take our Olfa knife and we will cut out our shape. It doesn't have to be exact because it's not like it's a perfect circle or something like that. So I'm going to try to keep as close to the shape as I can. This would be a lot easier if I would have had a sharp blade, but as you can see, it's dragging a little bit. That's your sign that you need to go ahead and change out your blade. The sharper the blade, the better the cut. Once we have our shape cut out, I'm going to go back and peel the paper off the top of the foam core. I buy this foam core at my local Dollar General. It's $1 a sheet and the paper is designed to come right off. So you can see it's not taking a whole lot of effort to get this come up. If you hit a part where it starts to rip a little bit, you just go back and work at it and it comes up with very minimal effort. Once the paper's off, we will take our Olfa knife and I'm going to come back in and I am going to put a bevel on the edge. I don't want it to be like straight up and down, so if you come back in, you cut it like at a 30 to 45 degree angle, it almost slopes up on top of it. This will make it appear to be more of a part of anything that you would drop it down on top of. Instead of having like a straight up and down step up onto it, it would have a gradual slope up. Once we have that beveled, we will try to decide where everything is going to be situated on this foam core base. You can see I'm trying different positions, lining up. Here's where I notice that the mushrooms don't have a completely flat base, so I'm going to take the Olfa knife and cut the base flat across the bottom. That way it will have more surface area to stick onto the foam base. Once I've got both of them cut, I kind of situate where I think I'm going to want them to go. Just trying to get a basic layout to make it all look like it's going to fit. Then I will come in using some of this E6000 glue, and I am going to glue the mushrooms onto the foam core. I wouldn't just leave this glue if I was going to add nothing else to it, just because it might pull away from the foam and break off. Later on, you're going to see we are going to add some Sculpamold to this. Once we've allowed the glue to dry, holding on the base pieces, I am going to make up a mixture of Sculpamold. I believe it is 2 parts of the Sculpamold mixture with 1 part water. I just use these cheap Dixie cups that you can get at the dollar store as my measuring. And as you see, I put 2 of the mixture in, 1 cup of the water. Then I will mix it up thoroughly with a stir stick. Once I have it all mixed up, I will take the Sculpamold mixture and I will begin applying it to cover the entire foam core base. I will also use this to slope up onto the mushrooms, so it will almost grab onto the mushrooms and hold them down. So between the E6000 and the Sculpamold, which I believe contains some almost like a PVA glue and a paper texture type to it. It's almost like when you used to make that toilet paper models and stuff like that in elementary school. It's almost that kind of consistency. But that mixed completely together will be placed on the base and it shall get hard and it will hold all the pieces down onto the base. As you can see, I started with the stir stick, but it is too hard to try to get this into every nook and cranny using a stick. So normally I start with a stick and then I go to my fingers to finish it up. and I will apply this Sculpamold to cover all of the foam core. So when I'm done, you should not be able to see any of the foam cores poking through. We allow that Sculptamold mixture overnight to dry. So the next day when you work on it, it will be completely dry and rock solid. You can see everything is white, is covered with it. We are now going to take our black paint and Mod Podge mixture that we got from Black Magic Craft. We will shake that up and coat the entire surface of the base and including the mushrooms with this Mod Podge. This will give it some strength, and it will seal in any little pieces of the Sculptamold that might break free, because the Mod Podge contains, I believe, almost like a lacquer in it, so it will coat it and make it harder, and it kind of glues any little free pieces down, so nothing should be sticking up and breaking free. Once we allow that Mod Podge to dry overnight, I'm going to come in with a nice midnight blue, and I am going to go over all of the base where the rock is going to be, and I will probably go up on all the pillars and all the parts of the wall. Anything that's going to be rock will use this midnight blue color. That way this will fit in with all of the Underdark terrain that I've created in the past. Then when we're done with that, we will come back and look at painting the mushrooms to make them stand out. With the midnight blue applied to the base and rock material, I'm going to come in now with this more of a normal blue color. We are going to drop some of this onto our paper plate palette, and we will do almost like a heavy dry brush across all of the rocks and that all the stone material to bring up the highlights on all the edges. Now that we've applied that blue to all of the rock that's going to be poking up through here, we are going to take this tan color and we are going to apply that to the mushrooms. This will give them more of an organic look, and at the same time making them a contrast to the stone and the dark base of the Underdark piece. I don't want to make it too bright like they do in some, I think, like Dungeons and Dragons, that normally has like really bright colors. I'm going to try to stay away from that on this, because I might use this more for like grim dark type things like a Shadowdark or something like that, and I don't really need the real bright colors. I'm going to try to tone it down and keep it more of a muted tans and more darker reds. Now that we have the bases of the mushrooms painted, we are going to use this red, and we are going to go over the caps of the mushrooms to give them a muted dark red color. This way it stays in my grim dark feel for the dungeon piece. Once we have applied a couple of coats of that red color to the caps of the mushrooms, I am going to come in with this brighter blue color, and we will drop some of that onto our paper plate, and then we are going to do a light, we'll call it a dry brush or an edge highlight, but what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to come back in and go over all of the stone to really just try to hit the very hard edges and all the raised surfaces to bring in some better looking highlights. Once we've completed that light blue dry brush over all of the stone, we are going to come back in and use some more of that darker blue, and we are going to try to feather that into the Sculpamold part just to try to tie it all in a little bit better. now that that is drying, we are going to take some of this red and we are going to apply that on top of the mushroom caps to give it a couple of gradient colors, you know, so it's not all one color. It'll kind of come back in and make a more organic looking thing. I'm trying to, if you see, I'm just trying to drag it down. That should cause some lines in the paint. That way it would give it almost like a texture, even though it doesn't have one. It's a completely flat and smooth surface. Putting some lines on it will give it the illusion that there is like growth there. It's more organic looking. I will also probably go back in and do some like stipples of the color too, just to give it some more you know, variation and highlights to the piece. Once we allow all of that to dry, we are going to come in here with some of our homemade black wash. If I can get it to work, I'm going to stick a card up here in the corner where we make this wash, but I'm going to apply this to the stones and pretty much the entire piece, just so it will go into the recesses and pool and dry there. That way it will give us the illusion of shadow. It's especially important on this rock because there are some runes carved into it, which you can see with just the colors on it, but you'll see when this is done, it kind of gets into those cracks and crevices and makes them really pop. And here it is. Once it dried, I took and applied a clear matte finish to the top of it to kind of seal everything in and protect it. But you can see all of the highlights for the ridges in the stone and the base. Since we used the same color scheme for all of it, it really ties together. Like, it looks like it's naturally supposed to be there. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, check out the next video right here. It's packed with more great content. And as always, keep on gaming.